Well, I think we're going to get going. I'd like to take this moment. My name's Steve Falk, president of Prime Data, to introduce my guest, Betty Vasconcelos, and our technical supervisor, Angela Dacey. Thanks for helping out, Angela, and taking care of organizing the logistics for this. Betty, thanks for joining us. Looking forward to your presentation. And thanks to you all for coming out today and spending some time with us to talk about charitable tax receipts, something that I'm sure you've just been staying up at night wondering, when can I get a webinar about charitable tax receipts to go to? Finally, your wish has come true. And so it's great that you've attended. What are you going to get in this 25 minutes? We really are going to try and stay on time. You're going to get a reminder of how important direct mail is as a channel for the nonprofit business as part of the marketing mix. You're going to find out what's changed in the personalized mail category to warrant a webinar like this, and how a nonprofit organization can use that to their benefit. I'll take care of some of the logistics and how that can, the nuts and bolts of it. And we'll also have questions taken during this webinar. So if you've got something specific that your organization that we don't cover, or you just want to make sure it's answered, hit it into the question button on your screen, and we will deal with those at the end. And if we can't get to all of them, Betty and I have promised to write answers to them, and we'll give them back to you with the email at the end as a summary email. You'll receive a recording of this presentation. You'll also get a copy of the book on the right-hand side of your screen there that's presented by Canada Post. It'll be in PDF format. It's some best practices and ideas of things that you could use in presenting your nonprofit direct mail. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Betty Vasconcelos. Betty and I are kind of like lifetime lovers of mail and the mail system. Betty has most recently been involved in the nonprofit sector. She's the director of the Smart Mail Marketing Wing of Canada Post. She was and has often been an attendee at the National Association of Major Mail Users events, where we presented to her an idea of looking at postal rates for nonprofits. And that's where this, over a number of years, developed into the current changes. I want to thank Betty for being a great listener to hearing about what the industry was concerned about. And I'll pass it over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve. Good afternoon, everyone. As Steve mentioned, I'm Betty Vasconcelos. I'm Director of Smart Mail Marketing Solutions at Canada Post. I've been with the organization for a couple of decades, and I manage a team of account managers looking after our major market accounts. As Steve mentioned, I have had the opportunity to work with the not-for-profit sector for the last couple of years, and it's been an amazing experience, very enlightening. I'm learning a lot about the industry and still learning a lot about the industry, and it's a pleasure to be here today to tell you a little bit about the change that we've made and how it's going to benefit registered charities. Next slide. Direct mail, or what we would call at Canada Post Smart Mail Marketing, has long been a proven marketing choice for non-for-profit organizations. And it's no wonder, given how compelling direct mail is to Canadians. 92% read it, 79% save it, and 68% are likely to share it. They engage with it, and they engage with it fast. Almost 73% Canadians collect their mail at least 3 times a week from the mailbox, and 42% collect it 5 times a week. It just goes to show you how compelling it is to Canadians. Next slide, please. Saying thank you, either post-donation or at a specific time of the year, can make a donor feel valued and drive future donation behavior. One of the top reasons donors do not donate again is because they were not thanked. And let's face it, a physical thank you just means more. It is an opportunity for you to ask a donor to continue to support your cause, whether that is a second gift, becoming a monthly donor, or simply visiting your website to learn more about how they can support your organization. Next slide. So we recognize the importance of direct mail as a key channel for your organization to strengthen donor loyalty. Registered charities are required to send tax receipts, And those are typically sent letter mail and as standalone mailings. Understanding the cost to acquire a donor, Canada Post wanted to add the benefit of mail throughout the donor journey in an integrated way. We see an opportunity for registered charities to build loyalty with donors by leveraging personalized mail to send thank you letters and with an ask, and now you can include the tax receipt. This integrated approach provides charities with an opportunity to maximize on their marketing dollars. So what did Canada Post specifically change to make this happen? We revised the definition of what qualifies as personalized mail to include thank you letters soliciting future donations with a tax receipt. Given the tax receipt can now be included with a thank you and an ask, it can be sent as personalized mail. The estimated average savings to a charity is approximately 54%. And if you're one of those charities that's been sending thank you letters and tax receipts in separate mailings, the savings can be even higher now that you can combine them. So this provides you with an opportunity to reinvest those savings towards your efforts to acquire new donors, as well as increasing donation dollars. Next slide. And now more than ever is the time to be in the mailbox. With so many Canadians at home, it has become the epicenter of our lives. Accenture refers to this as the decade of the home. New survey research by Accenture shows that people are sticking to their home base and supporting their local communities. The impact of the pandemic has created discomfort with public spaces and travel. And among their key findings, 70% of Canadian respondents expect to do most of their socializing in their home, in a friend's home, or virtually. 52% of Canadians who never worked from home prior are now planning to do so more often. 54% of Canadian consumers said that they are shopping locally. This change in consumer behavior impacts businesses in the way they promote their products and services and how they will need to cater to the needs of Canadians. It is also an ideal time as we are seeing charities increasing their efforts to build donor loyalty. Just in the last 2 weeks alone, Strategy Daily featured 2 articles of NFPs focusing their efforts on monthly donor conversion. Direct mail is a channel to connect, captivate, and convert. And I really want to take this opportunity to thank Steve for working with Canada Post to deliver this change. It is expert partners like you, Steve, that help us to evolve and bring greater value to the marketplace. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you to walk us through some best practices. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Betty. Appreciate that little summary. For people who don't know me, or maybe this is their first time, I've been a participant in the nonprofit business and sector for much of my life. I've sat on boards. I started a nonprofit from scratch. And then it turns out that through coincidences of life decisions, I end up in the business of sending direct mail for nonprofits. I also advocate on behalf of good marketing practices, and I have a short video series that I've been working on for about 2 years, 1 a month, all the way through the alphabet on different letters of the alphabet for like a minute or 2 riff on different marketing subjects. So if you're curious about more of the stuff that I produce or comment on, you can find that on these links. We will be sending this slide deck there. It's called my A to Z growth series. Through that, I end up in organizations that help. Like I'm an AFP member, and through our membership at NAMU, at Prime Data, we end up commenting and finding out ways to try and improve mail services and marketing services for the industry. So this is how we ended up in this world where I'm talking about and commenting on these postal changes. Canada Post seems to have recognized that a tax receipt is really, although it's a transactional mail piece, is actually bound closely to the marketing objectives that everybody has who's a nonprofit fundraiser. What you're trying to do is engage and keep a long lifetime value of your donors. And if they don't get a tax receipt, if they don't get a thank you note, and if they aren't timely, that can mess with the mix. So hearing a little bit about how that was important, and considering that there's such a high number of people who are donating via mail, they made it easier for people to do this through this change. So kudos to them for taking a look at that. I've written an article about it in Foundations Magazine, and I want to thank Steve Lloyd from Foundations Magazine for being a sponsor of this event. Later on, I'll have a link for how you can register for it. Interesting articles monthly from Foundations Magazine about the industry, and you might enjoy that read. You know, there's still 9.6 billion, why don't I say trillion, gazillion. It's $9.6 billion in charitable giving by direct mail, according to recent reports. I've got links to those in the article above, but still less than 10% are given online. So it gives you an idea of the sense of importance that direct mail still plays in individual giving in Canada. That statistic comes from Blackbaud, and it's kind of even whether you're in the UK, Canada, the US. Still a strong place for mail in the relationship building between donors and organizations. And what this new change means is that if you have 10,000 donors a year, that you'll save about $4,000 a year in expense in having to send out what was your tax receipt, which was sort of transactional. Now you can take that and make it softer and make it part of a thanking process. You probably send out thank you notes and didn't include the tax receipt because suddenly I was going to get dinged for the higher postage. Or maybe you kept all your tax receipts to the end of the year and then sent them there and then kind of begrudged it because, hey, I got to send them at a high rate of postage. Well, now it's less expensive to send them. And since we know that there's great donor relationships built over personal and physical transactions, that when you have those interactions with your donors, you just get longer lifetime value. So there's great value in being able to send whatever communication and the mix that's right for your organization, because one size doesn't fit all. I just noticed that yesterday there was a revision on the 2020 giving from the Blackbaud report, and it's still well below, I think it's around 10% or something like that right now. So, we've seen a big increase in 2020, but it's still meaning that there's all kinds of other channels that are bringing in resources for organizations, and digital isn't the single one leader in that area, and so Canada Post is kind of recognizing also that given the importance of mail, sending tax receipts via email may miss the mark sometimes too. What people have reported, and I have some stats about that in my article, is that a high percentage of donors feel like they never got thanked and they never got their tax receipt. And a lot of that is to blame for sending out tax receipts via email. And it goes into spam filters, people can't find them come tax season, etc. So there is a good argument for trying to give the most impactful channel for delivering those important messages. Nothing worse to disrupt a donor's engagement with you than feeling they hadn't been thanked. And it's a surprising number who do. I think it's close to 40% or something like that. It's referred to in my article. How do you do this? Well, how do you take advantage of it? It turns out that it's pretty simple. If you're currently sending out a tax receipt and you want this to apply, a couple simple things. You should mail 100 at a time. You should use a personalized mail indicia on the envelopes. And you really, at the very minimum, have to show that you're trying to encourage the donor to continue supporting you. That's all Canada Post asks. Make it a marketing message. Make it a part of the engagement. Please visit our website. We encourage you to keep supporting us. Thank you very much, etc. It doesn't have to be a separate piece of paper. It doesn't have to look like a thank you card. It can be all built into the sheet of paper that has your receipts, but they ask that it have a marketing message, at least to the very minimum, of saying, please visit our website and learn more about donating or supporting our organization. So pretty simple criteria for saving 40 cents. You can also, I've spoken to the two major manufacturers of postage meters in Canada, and both of them say that at certain levels of subscription with them, there's a postal meter indicia option where you can print these special indicias right onto your mail pieces, so you don't necessarily have to have special envelopes. And you do have to create a statement of mailing for each mailing. So when you've got your stuff ready to drop at the post office, you go online, create using EST, which is electronic shipping tools, and create a statement of mailing, an SOM, a SOM as we call it. And so you can be eligible for these lower rates. You don't put a regular postage stamp on, you use an indicia. Most of that is pretty straightforward, but if you need help with it, call us or call your rep. And if you don't know who your rep is, there will be a phone number in the documents that I'm sending to support this that will help you find your rep in case you have further questions. You then have to deposit it at your closest Canada Post location that accepts mail like this. An awful lot do. And to find out the closest one to you, you can type in your postal code on this handy find a deposit location page that Canada Post has on their website. Once again, I'll supply a link to this, but you put it in, you tell them how many pieces of mail. If you've got like 500,000 pieces of mail, you have to go to some of their bigger units, that take those big trucks. But if you've just got a few hundred every time, or even 5,000 or less or something, you can go to an awful lot of locations around Canada and drop mail. I just wanted to mention one other thing, and that is that since you're going to switch from maybe using stamps or maybe using a first-class indicia, you're going to switch over to personalized indicia, you want to keep a couple things in mind. One is there's a brand new indicia coming in. It actually has been launched. If you go to the website and download it, you'll get the new indicia. The little 3D barcode that you see there actually carries some neat information. That was my clock telling me I got a little bit of a warning to keep moving along here. So we have time for questions. But the new indicia, that little indicia in the new issue will start to do some neat things. And I know that most of you are thinking, I want to have integrated fundraising campaigns. So you're doing all these different channels that integrate. Well, coming soon will be a Canada Post app that integrates with that little barcode. So if you use the barcode on your personalized mail pieces that are going out with your thank you notes, etc., neat things will start to happen. There'll be options that'll be available to you to trigger, say, the app to go off on somebody's phone. Imagine if the thank you note also had a thank you note app notification that said, go to your mailbox now. The Daily Food Bank has just sent you a thank you note. So you'll be able to kind of like, we're saying amplify through different channels just by using your printed mail piece now has like extra dimensions to it. I also always suggest to people they use the return postage guaranteed indicia, not the middle one. The middle one doesn't say return postage. And if you use that one, the address the person's moved or it's undeliverable for some reason. And a lot of people put the wrong address in on a form. If they're giving online, they make something wrong. They spell the street name wrong, the one character wrong in the postal code, and then suddenly it's not deliverable. Well, if you put return postage guaranteed, it's free. It used to cost a penny more, but it doesn't anymore. Canada Post threw that into the mix, trying to make it easier for everyone to gather accurate address data because, hey, listen, we all want to deliver mail more accurately. It helps with this sustainability of the industry. If we're sending, there's an awful lot of mail that doesn't get delivered because of bad addresses. So make it deliverable. Collect data, update it, and if you haven't done it recently, 18 to 20% of Canadians have moved every year, and if you haven't used the national change of address on your database recently, it's probably not a bad idea. I'm going to quickly wrap up and just say, why wouldn't I try to solve my tax receipt and my thank you with digital-only solutions? And I'm going to use a solution in another industry to exemplify this. One of the things that you could do is let donors know, ask them, hey, do you have a preference? Because, banks and telcos took the step of unilaterally just deciding they weren't going to send statements, and it caused an uproar. In fact, even a lawsuit, I think, saying, hey, you can't not send me paper statements. Some people are just predisposed to loving to have a paper statement. It helps them keep organized. They can't find the email receipts. They change email addresses or they put a wrong one in and suddenly the receipts and thank yous are going in the wrong direction. Paper ones work in all kinds of situations. They add a dimension to your engagement that is very positive. Now, here's an example of an organization that we have case studies for these that was solving most of their problems digitally, both Wayfair and Sephora. And I just mentioned this so you can see the parallel. They thought they could solve everything digitally. They're an online e-commerce company. They use email an awful lot. And so you get all kinds of email for them. Well, we did a project where when people abandoned shopping carts, we sent a postcard out on the same day as they sent the email. So they sent an email saying, hey, would you like to come back? You left a couch in there. We sent a postcard on the same day. They got 12% additional revenue for the every address that got both a postcard and an email. The two things amplified each other, got better results. We did a similar project for Sephora. What I'm trying to say here is one channel doesn't solve all the problems. Often there's an interplay between them, and that even when you think you've got everything solved and it should be solved by digital, maybe it's best to think of multiple channels as being the solutions.
We're at the 20 minute, we're at the 20-minute mark, Steve, with 2 questions.
That's great. So I'm going to be wrapping up. I'm going to just let people know that Canada Post has a free Insight magazine. If you're looking for ideas for direct mail and you want a really cool looking magazine, there's a PDF and a print version of that. You can subscribe here. As I said, I'll send this deck so you can know where the subscribe is. And I've given you a whole set of links for things like Canada Post special, where the guide is and where you can get the details of entering mail. Also, there's a link for subscribing to Foundations magazine down at the bottom there if you want. It's time for questions. Angela, what do we have for questions?
Okay, we have 2 questions so far. Paul is asking, approximately what percentage of tax receipts are being emailed to donors in 2020?
You know, I wish I knew that. I occasionally get a call from somebody who's thinking about doing it, but Paul, I have no idea. Somebody like Blackbaud might know, but of course it varies a lot by the type of charity. So, you know, a charity like Movember is nearly all online. If you run in a hospital marathon, they probably don't even ask you for your home address. You know, you get all your friends to donate and support you, and each one of them's only asked for an email address and Visa number, and they only have email to thank and to give the tax receipt. So in those organizations, yeah, all that's 100%. But I think if that graph from Blackbaud is any reflection, fewer than 10% of the donations are given online. So my guess is it's not much more than that people are sending email only tax receipts. Many have a mix. Wish I could answer more precisely, Paul, but that's sort of what I'm divining from what I know about the industry. What else do we have?
Excellent. Thanks, Steve. We have somebody else saying, my finance team tells me that we have to do address verification and special sorting before we can do this. Is that true?
Yeah, you know, I could have mentioned that as one of the things that so if you've got small quantities, I believe the number is 5,000 pieces or more, you need address correction to be able to get the best rate. So if you're doing a fairly large mailing, you might want to engage a mail service provider to do some address correction, etc. That's still usually all of those services only cost a couple pennies, so you'll still be way ahead of the game. If you're doing 100 at a time, 500 at a time, 1,000 at a time, no address correction required. However, if you don't do address correction or NCOA once a year or so on all of your data and then bring it back in, some of the software programs have it built in, and other ones you can send out to have it done and put it back in. You're probably doing yourself a disservice anyway, because those are your valuable donors and you want to have correct information in there. So update it anyway, get it done, keep it clean.
And Steve, I was just going to add, it's also address accuracy, and NCOA actually stands for National Change of Address. So anytime that somebody's registered a move with Canada Post, it would be reflected in our National Change of Address.
That's right. Yeah. So you probably get, yeah, you know, I don't know what the number is, Betty. I think the number is something in the neighborhood of 1.5 million changes of address or something like that a year are registered in that database. So there's a lot of Canadians moving.
True, I just moved. Here's another question for you. So Steve and Betty, thanks for the informative presentation. How long is this new personalized mail initiative going to last?
Well, it's a permanent change to our personalized mail definition. And Steve, through the document Steve is sending, he's going to give you the link. If ever you're not sure if a piece qualifies, it's when to say yes. So there's some checks and balances along the way. And of course, you can always reach out to your Canada Post representative if you want us to take a look at a piece to make sure that it would qualify. So it is a permanent change as of this year.
Yeah, and I think that you know, the reason it's a permanent change and why Canada Post has, let's call it an investment they've made an investment in this change, is that they would like to see organizations who benefit from this saving in pot A to use it in pot B, which is encouraging other kinds of mail-related engagement with your donors. The idea being that once you have them in a channel, it's probably their favorite channel. They're going to be comfortable in that channel, receiving communications back and forth. We know it's one of the strongest performing channels. So if you save some money in pot A, Canada Post help you save it. I think, the first place you should look at trying to, what should we do with that money? Go acquire some new donors, put it back into your budget to recycle through. We know that that it's an ecosystem to keep a donor file, and that every year you get anywhere from 20 to 30% of people who are dropping out. So take some of that saving and engaging donor and put it in the top end of the pipeline, and keep acquiring donors in the best ways that you can that work in your organization, so that you can push them down and keep them well engaged with pieces of mail as they fit into the proper channels that you're using to engage with your constituents. Any other questions,
Excellent.
Angela?
We have a few more. I'm not sure if we're going to have time for all of them, but Rita asks, to find a deposit location, what type of mailing should I specify? She's curious, an incentive letter mail, machinable, standard, what should she?
Machinable, personalized mail. And it's on the slide deck too. When we send it over to you, Rita, you'll see it. I've selected it in the slide. So machinable, personalized mail. That's if it's in a number 10 envelope or a 6x9 envelope, and it's not too thick. So I think that's probably the case. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Actually, Steve, I was just going to add to, we're sending the link to the customer guide. So again, we have all of our size specifications in there. It's actually a fantastic resource to keep on hand. And so if you're designing your piece and you want to take a look at what the specifications, it's all contained in there.
And if there's something extra, here's my email address. We don't get through all the questions, but as I said, we'll try to answer them via the email. What else do we have, Angela?
We probably have time for one more, which we have, what other loyalty communication with donors do you see besides a tax receipt and thank you note?
Well, newsletters are the classic, right? I don't think I have to say anymore. That, if you're, and other people have done very personal things, like if you're in healthcare, etc., things like a birthday card. If you have a really elevated, say, mid-level, high-level donor, they certainly do things like that. Yep.
Yeah, and I would just add that we're seeing it takes time and money to acquire the donor, and once you have the donor, we're seeing a lot more about nurturing that relationship, about converting them over to perhaps becoming, instead of that annual one-time donor, to becoming a monthly donor, or perhaps you just focus on getting a second gift. And also communicating with donors, how their support is helping the cause.
Yeah. Well, listen, we promised we would try to keep it within the time. We're going to give you 30 seconds of your time back. Betty, thanks for taking this time.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure.
Angela, thanks for helping with the tech stuff. For all of you who spent half an hour of your life you'll never get back, hope we gave you some nuggets that are useful. And we'll send you some information, if not today, tomorrow, with a summary of this and links to the video, etc. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.